It is hard to believe this day has finally come. After all, despite my high station, the Empire is not like Bretonnia or Astalia. Emperors are not only chosen by Sigmar, but by the representatives of the people, the elector counts, diplomatically. There are, quite frankly, many worthy of the title of Emperor, especially Graf Boris Todbringer, or even the Emperor's own eldest son, Crown Prince Leopold, despite, well, his fall from grace of late. But it seems fate has decided that it is I who was to take up this mantle, and I for one am honoured and eager to take it up. I admit much of my life has been sheltered. I've been kept away at Castle Reigard since I was a young boy, tutored and trained one day to hold a position of power in the Empire. I admit I hated it as a young man. I saw more of my tutors, 9 of the finest scholars of Nuln, than my own family, never mind people my own age. But as I grew to a man, I began to realize the boons I was being given. I began to see those tutors, well, as a family of sorts. They have always cared for me and taught me the values a true ruler should have. And now, I can put those lessons to good use. The Empire needs a strong emperor now more than ever, and it needs change. True, everlasting reformation. I do not seek to upend the established order, of course. For too long, power has been held by the upper nobility and, dare I say, the Church of Sigmar. This religious nonsense of late proves that things need to change. All the gods are worthy of worship, not just Sigmar, though of course he must be revered. Likewise, more power should be invested in elected officials, and not just the nobles of old. And our allies, the elves, the dwarves, well, they need to do their part as well. The elves have been far too reclusive of late, and the dwarves too stubborn. It's time they mend their differences and focus on the bigger picture. Yes, change must come quickly. Of course, for now I should focus on today. Focus on the ceremony, and well, get to work. The fate of the Empire is about to change forever, and I am proud to serve as needed. This is Red Moon Roleplaying. And so it seems that the 3 of you still have some time left in the day to do something. The question is, are you just going to get ready straight away for this vigil? It turns out that yes, in a very secure room, somewhere in the basement levels of the palace, a whole entire bunch of priests and Reichsguard are guarding that hammer till the morning. You are cleared and ready to join them. Is there anything you'd like to do just before then? There is just maybe enough time to do one last little thing. Send one of your people on a quick errand, maybe do a quick errand yourself. Just a bit of time before the vigil begins, and then, well, the coronation awaits tomorrow, it seems.
If I have the time, I would like to go back to my surgery, to where all my occult books are locked up. I want to pore through them and see if I can find any trace of this face and what it might mean. I mean, I can anticipate doing this in something of a dervish, just ripping through books. If I don't find it, throwing that book aside. At this point, I worry that the entire palace is going to collapse, or there's going to be an assassination on a grand scale, and all we'll be able to do is stand around and watch. So I am barely keeping it together.
Indeed. There certainly is time for you to do that. What about you, Kruger, and you, Heinrich? Any last-minute errands yourselves, or are you happy just to get ready for the vigil? It's going to be a long one.
I'll try to get a little bit of rest before then, if I can.
That might be wise. Then, yes, you can do that. And what about you?
I'll take first watch. At this point, all I want to do is guard the hammer and the Emperor, and the first one seems easier than the second. So, well, on second thought, the last time I let Siegfrieda run off by herself, she got into a tremendous amount of trouble. So before making any decisions, I suppose I'll ask if she'd like a bodyguard, given the current tenor of the city.
What do you think, Siegfrieda? On one hand, that would be very useful. But on the other hand, that does carry a risk, because you want to dive into your forbidden books, and what if Heinrich came in at the wrong moment? What would he think?
I look at you a couple of seconds longer than I otherwise might, Heinrich. And then I nod. I'll need for you to stand downstairs. When I do this research, I very much favour solitude, but you won't be more than a doorway or a staircase away from me.
Oh, far be it from me to interfere with... I'll just gesture towards her. I understand that Siegfrieda is eccentric. I don't suspect she's into anything too nefarious, and I'm sure I can hear a summoning ritual if one were to happen, which I'm not worried about. No, in this moment, I think I am genuinely concerned that a riot might break out as you're walking from the palace to your clinic, and I'd never forgive myself if I didn't attend to you along the way.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
Then you settle down just for a little, Kruger, getting ready for that vigil, while you, Heinrich, and Siegfrieda head back quickly through the streets, which are full of unrest. But luckily, the route to the temporary surgery you formed here in Altdorf, Siegfrieda, where you've kept some of your books, well, that route is safe. And so you make your way as the sun begins to set, and the sky is cloudy and dark. Heinrich Schulf, you find yourself returning to the Middenheim estate, or rather the estate that was given to the Middenheim party while Graf Boris Todbringer was here. Currently, it is now only occupied by Baron Rainer Todbringer and his entourage, because as you know, Elector Count Boris has left and returned to Middenheim in your absence. But it is here that, yes, Siegfrieda, you took some of your materials, and you even risked bringing some of those forbidden books secretly, and just put them here in this little den that you weren't even sure you'd return to, at least not in such haste. But with Heinrich in tow, you leave him at the door and enter, and begin frantically searching your books. I would like you now to make a -30 law demonology check. This is a very hard check, but luckily at least you have the skill required. Let's see how you do.
I do rather alarmingly well, given that this is demonology. I rolled a 3 under my reduced value, which is now 38.
That's very good. Could you also please make a hard coolness roll, -30 as well?
Well, that's a no, so I'm going to re-roll that. Okay, 54. No, that's still a failure because I'm on -30, so no.
You begin frantically searching, and as you do this, I think it's safe to say that any of the safeguards you've taken in the past you ignore. You don't have time to not look at a page, you don't have time to not study a diagram, you are looking at them, you are studying them. Maybe that's why 2 corruption points begin to seep into your mind. You bring out a book of skin. You swore you'd never open that one again. It's open. You look at the diagrams, the foul symbols of chaos. You hear whispering in your mind, but you need an answer. You will get an answer. And it's there. You find it. And when Great Sigmar made their final journey, the forces of chaos did quail and quake. Many champions were sent against him, from foulest Schlabberlife to proud Rektorforkvuk. None more terrifying than the chosens of Zinch themselves, mighty Shiragetru, Lord of Change. There it is, Siegfrieda, you found it. There, a greater demon of chaos fought Sigmar, but that's it. That's all it says. You found the reference. You don't think this is where you read it before. You didn't read this book, or did you? The whispers are very loud now in your ears. But you found it. Shiragetru, a lord of change, a greater demon of chaos, who fought and was defeated by Sigmar. That's the reference you find. Well, Siegfrieda, it seems we have reached our limit. Sometimes there are prices to be paid for these things, Siegfrieda, as you reach your maximum corruption level. But let us see, maybe you can still withstand it. I would like you to make an endurance test. I'm actually going to give you a +10 to it on this occasion, because even though this is quite bad, you are in a relatively safe environment. So please make that roll a +10 endurance.
Well, I succeed. I get a 25 out of 55.
As you make your revelation, Siegfrieda, you once again can just feel this whispering that it's too late. It's already over. Nothing you can do but wait. And then you just collapse. And Heinrich Schilf, you from outside, you've been very good, you've just been standing there. But you suddenly hear someone falling over. For now, Siegfrieda, you are able with sheer will to hold this back, but you can feel it. You are full of poison. You are full of it. This is not good. What do you do, Heinrich?
I specifically came here on the off chance my friend was struck by some kind of calamity, and the sound of collapsing certainly qualifies. Well, I promised I would stay a stairwell away, but no, now I am storming up those stairs to see what's happened.
What state will he find you in, Siegfrieda, as he barges in the door?
Very much raking at my skin and pulling my hair out. I mean, I'm surrounded by all these books that are very much going to give the game away. But I'm not going to hastily try and shove them away. This isn't like a parent walking in to find their child looking at pornography. This is an inquisitor walking in to find their friend looking at, well, about the worst possible thing.
It is, Heinrich. You look to your friend, desperate and in agony, and then you just look down and it's open right before you. You can see a book. It's entombed in... is that human skin? And as you look upon one of the pages, you can't read. You don't have to. You can see strange letters moving on their own accord. Corruption. Chaos. How did this get in here? This is terrible. This must be burned immediately. What? Why does Siegfrieda have this? Why does she have this?
Oh, Siegfrieda, damn your curiosity. There'll be time to purify this place, but my primary desire is to get Siegfrieda away from it. If it has some kind of hold on her, if I can break her eyesight with it. So unfortunately, without your consent, I'm going to attempt to wrestle you out of the room.
Siegfrieda, you start coming to. You're aware of what's happening. You're in the... Heinrich has you. And then you just hear this very dull whisper somewhere at the back of your mind saying, "Don't worry. I'll calm it down a little, shall I?" And the feeling of corruption, it recedes. It's gone. It's under control. You're in control. You're in control, totally and utterly. Once again.
I let myself silently cry a little. I'm very much ashamed that Heinrich has seen me like this. But there's no point making an apology or asking for mercy or doing anything so pity-driven. I have determined, I say, climbing to my feet, that the face that I saw in the sky was a champion of Tzeentch, and have lost part of my mind just for that small morsel of information. I would like to leave now.
You will not need any further permission from me. But you can see there's a math being performed behind my eyes. That it goes without saying that what you've done has breached a trust between us, but not without the realization that information is useful.
Roll a law chaos roll, Heinrich Schilf.
Oh, not too shabby. 35 under 42, one level of success.
You have a dilemma now. And this is a dilemma that is... you can choose how you react to it, but the skill rolled simply means you understand the consequences. Such information can be useful. People like Quintus Fassbinder skirt imperial law by making it useful. They skirt the law. By your own training and your own doctrines, Siegfrieda has just admitted to being a heretic. And in fact, the evidence is on the floor. Now, of course, you don't have to do anything. You are Heinrich Schilf. You're your own man. But there is a problem as well, because part of the doctrine here is not so much that it's not useful information, but that the truth of the information is impossible to verify. Your friend could be telling you the truth, something vitally useful. She could also now be completely in the thrall of chaos, telling you sweet lies. Lies you fought against in the caverns. This is how it works, especially with the changer of ways. Is this the truth, or has Siegfrieda fallen for a lie? And that, unfortunately, you don't know. You only know that if you wish to keep her safe, you're not going to be able to tell anyone this. Not yet, anyway. Or not in this way.
No, when the time comes, it's obvious that I'm incapable of judging this matter fairly. And even were whatever sentence I pass down will be tainted by my relationship with Siegfrieda. But my first duty is the security of the Empire. And Siegfrieda saw something in the sky. Now she's seen it in the books. I'm done with coincidences, right? And so I can believe it for now that she's telling the truth, that she knows something of value. And assuming there is an Empire, and there is a Siegfrieda, and there is a Heinrich, when this is all said and done, then we can deal with this. But if there is something truly terrible brewing, I would rather face it with Siegfrieda, poisoned or not, than without.
So, what do you two do? It is now late at night. You know Kruger by this point will have already taken his place at that vigil. But the situation is a little tricky now, isn't it? What do you two do?
Shall we go join Kruger?
It seems appropriate.
At this point, as you then go to join Kruger, you notice Erica, who wasn't there when this all happened, but was in the building, and she comes and she keeps wagging her tail, looking very concerned at you, Siegfrieda.
Oh, Erica. And I crouch down to stroke her fur. You've been a lifeline for me ever since I purchased you, what feels like a lifetime ago. Only ever see the good in things, don't you, girl?
She wags her tail, ready to follow you to the end, whatever that end may be, as the two of you try and just make your way back. Kruger, you have joined several guards standing outside the small chamber where the Great Warhammer is being held. It's been quite boring, to be honest. These individuals aren't the talking type. But finally, coming down the stairs are your friends, Heinrich and Siegfrieda. Do you think, Siegfrieda, you'd be trying to hide how you are currently feeling? It is possible. You are actually feeling physically completely fine now, but will you be trying to put on an act of bravado, or do you think Kruger will be able to read you easily? What do you think?
I think even if I am putting on an act, Kruger's going to be able to read me easily. He's been in my company for, well, a long time now. So, for the sake of the public, I'm not going to be prowling around like a skittish witch. But yeah, I'm not making any effort to disguise my distress from Kruger. It wouldn't be fair to him.
Then, Kruger, something is wrong. Siegfrieda looks not herself, and that's the state they come to join you, and some of the guards just nod and leave, as if you three can now watch this part of the corridor, and you're alone. What do you do?
Well, I'll look to the two of them and just ask, is everything all right? You seem, well, has something happened?
I lean toward you. Tzinch has their eye on this place. eyes, maybe? And I nod, and then I lean back.
Well, that is alarming. What can we do?
At that I shrug. Beats the fuck out of me.
Well, alright, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way then. We'll just keep a lookout and stab anyone trying to get it.
Yes, I wish I brought a donkey.
I laugh at that.
What do you say, Heinrich? You have your corridors, you have guards, and there's the very small room. You double-check. Yes, the hammer is there, a nice golden box.
I've got a long night of patrolling ahead of me. Just so very on edge right now. I hate not knowing.
It's an unpleasant feeling, Heinrich Schilf. And there's a deep concern. Again, what can you do? It's now the middle of the night. Obviously, you're doing your best, but the only thing you think of doing is, as soon as the ceremony is over, just you need to tell this new emperor, like, things need to be done. You need to be ready. Investigations need to be made. Maybe you could even start asking people. Maybe even Quintus Fassbinder can help. Like, who is this Shira Getru? But it's weird because what Siegfrieda told you, it's the name of a demon who was defeated thousands of years ago by Sigmar. Like, okay, then again, no demon can truly die, but you know that one thing's for sure, greater demons don't just pop out of the air. They need mass summonings, they need armies. There's a reason the Empire is not completely overrun with chaos, after all. And besides, maybe even the Grand Theogenist will know. You have to wait till the morning. And so, the three of you stand vigil. And you wait. And wait. And wait. For nothing happens. There are no assassins in the night. There are no fell demons swooping in. Even you, Siegfried, as you stare out into the dark from one of the windows, you feel much better. You actually feel fine. Like, calm, almost. You keep expecting something terrible to happen any moment, and it doesn't, and someone hands you a tea at one point, and the tea warms you, and Erica seems to be sleeping soundly next to you. And before you know it, the bells ring out. It's day. It's the morning. And Lady Jana Zutermine, you hear her cane, and she's flanked by several members of the Reichsguard. Good morning. I hope you're all well. It's been a long night, but so far, everything is secure. We're ready. If you wish to come up, we can put the hammer in its position, and, well, in a few hours, it's showtime. I've made sure that the entire route is well guarded. Obviously, the Grand Theogenist will be here shortly, and the High Patriarch of the Wizards' Council, or guilds, or I never know how it works with those wizards. And of course, the High Capitular and a great deal of knights are all ready at the actual Cathedral of Sigmar, ready as ready as we can be. There's going to be quite a crowd, we think, but we think we have it under control.
That does sound good. Perhaps it is time then that we make ourselves ready.
Yes, we've been on patrol all night, I suppose, haven't we? We should clean up, dress up. I'm sure the worst is over.
I certainly hope so.
At this point, it seems the guards are ready to take the hammer to the Chapel of Sigmar in the palace. Do you let this happen? It's only going to take them 30 minutes. It seems literally in 2 hours. You could actually see from the windows people are already starting to gather. The processions, the ceremonies will soon begin. Are you going to do anything about that? Or are you going to maybe just relax a little and wait to be, it seems, escorted in? You're all going to be seated together, it seems, just before it all happens.
Well, everything at this point feels very much out of our control, right?
Yes.
It does a little, Heinrich, if you're completely honest. After all, you are an Altdorf. There are people here. There are your own superiors are here, and they're all apparently doing their jobs. Can you just counteract that all at this moment in time? You honestly don't really know. You're just filled with this worry, this dread, and maybe the worst thing of all is that it's only because of Siegfrieda. If not for her, everything seems to be going really well.
Well, I suppose I'll do what is expected of me then. I'll follow the instructions.
Then you are guided to a room where you are expected to prepare. You're given clothing to look your finest. You see guards coming and going. You see a great assembly being formed in the great hall before the inner chapel. You can see there's a great long corridor. You can see several people you know are standing in attendance. Baron Reiner in full regalia with all his surviving knights. Priest Captain Jocelyn just across. The crew of the Berrybell are here. Don't know how they got in, but you suppose, Heinrich, that they must want to have a seat. They've been given it seems. They're all the crowds that will stand before the great chambers. Outside, the crowd is immense. You can see thousands of citizens of Altdorf are all gathering in a large procession, which will be guarded where you will make your way to the full cathedral. And it's all passing, Siegfrieda, like a dream. You're being dressed, and Leah says something to you. You're not sure what it is. She seems happy. She'll be waiting in the wings. And it's all just happening. And Heinrich, you see Bertha, she seems in good spirits. Everyone is in good spirits now. Everyone is excited. This is it. The new emperor is coming. And the sun is even shining a little. How are you feeling about this, Heinrich Schilf?
I know that all the preparations in the world matter for nothing compared to the forces of chaos. So I suppose it's nice they've brought out the household cavalry and set up all their security systems, but I just know in my bones that something is waiting.
And what of you, Siegfrieda? It's all just a pleasant dream now.
It may just be a dream. It's still a memory. Of course I'm swept up by the grandeur of it all. It's wonderful to be reminded of what civilization can look like. It's like something out of one of the books I was never read as a child. But I've certainly heard of them. But there is still that pit of dread inside me that something is going to go wrong. I wouldn't have seen that face unless there was something that was going to go wrong.
Kruger Hoffman, you are with Heinrich and Siegfrieda. You are marching in line. In front of you, several members of the Reichsguard beginning to enter the great chambers before you. Lady Jana Zutterbein is with you as well, and several people you do not know, but you think you've been informed by your contacts. Various delegations, various envoys, not a single Elector Count is present. Other than, of course, well, apparently the Emperor himself. But they all have envoys here, and you also see some elves and some dwarves who seem to represent the interests of, well, some of the elves and some of the dwarves. It's all just happening. And what are you doing? You're being marched along. You can see on the left and right your friends all just waiting in the eaves, if you will, before you yourselves enter the great chambers. What's going through your mind?
I'm just focused on trying to do this right then. Trying to make it look good. Following protocol as best as I can.
Why don't you roll a perception check? Give yourself a plus 20.
Going to want to use a point of fortune there. 68 under 88, because it was plus 20.
Then you are successful. You notice something interesting. You're not sure why it's interesting, but it just does. You're a bit paranoid, so these things are coming to you. As you're making your way up this grand staircase that leads to the inner chapel, you notice there are two other corridors that lead under the stairs, if you will. One to the right just seems to lead to elsewhere in the palace, but one is interesting because it seems to be, there's like a red velvet rope there, as if it's cornered off, and you notice what looks like building material sort of just placed in this tunnel, and it's a little out of place. What's that about? You could always ask Lady Jana Zutterbein. She's right next to you.
I'll do that and I'll point that out. Something strange about that, isn't there?
Oh, well, no, not really. No, that's... Oh, I suppose you wouldn't know. So the original, the chapel we're going into now, actually 100 or so years ago, used to be one of the Emperor's throne rooms, would you believe? They were very fond of their wine, so they actually had a wine cellar built directly under the cathedral so that they could literally have wine barrels pulled up at any moment. Can you believe it? How utterly ridiculous. I'm certainly hoping the new Emperor isn't like that.
Well, I can understand giving in to temptation if you have the ability to get whatever you want whenever you want it, but no, you're right. It's not particularly good for making good decisions.
No, it looks like, I think there were some renovations happening there, but as you can imagine, we've all had far more important things to do than renovations, so they've been temporarily called off. Don't worry, I've sent some people in there just in case, but no, it's literally just an old cellar.
Well, that's good to hear then. Have we looked through it and make sure that there's no one attempting to infiltrate somehow?
Yes, no, I mean, well, let's just say if they did, they'd be popping up into a room full of guards.
Oh, that's good then.
Yes. No, dearie, don't worry, you've got this. Again, you three have done very, very well. Don't worry, you've just got to sit down, smile, and in my opinion, the more important part will be getting to the cathedral. That's where I'm slightly worried.
I understand. You can count on me doing what needs to be done.
Of course I can, dearie. I always know that. And if you're wondering, yes, Lady Emmanuel Nacht would have been joining us, but we've made sure that your orders are followed. She's taking care of security outside the palace.
Excellent.
And just like that, you were all led into the inner chapel of Sigmar. You, of course, Heinrich Schilf, have been to the great cathedral itself, and this is nothing compared to that. But it is still impressive, a fine room with a great glass ceiling, sunlight pouring through, great tapestries showing the various deeds of Sigmar. You see, far in front of a great deal of chairs, the Warhammer. It's been placed on a special pedestal on a great red carpet. As you come in, you notice that already present, it seems, well, there's the Emperor, flanked by a few guards, and the Grand Theogenist himself. Again, someone you have met personally, Heinrich. Grand Theogenist Yori. They are standing, ready. Siegfrieda, there's the Emperor. He's standing. He looks tired. That's heavy armor, but he's standing. He seems lucid. It seems your technique did work. For a man who was on death's door, he looks, well, not well, but certainly not too bad.
Well, that does make me smile. Despite everything else, that is proof that medicine can work without the need for occult interference.
Very true. Although, they did say there was maybe some divine interference, but that's beside the point.
I've never held much stock in that kind of thing.
Exactly. And everyone is then seated. You're seated right at the back, Kruger, with Lady Jana Zuntermein. That's odd. You're seated at the back, but then, for some reason, Kruger and Lady Siegfrieda are put at the front. Then you think about it and go, oh yes, everyone here thinks she's Lady Wittgenstein, so that must be her getting her front seat with her one honorary guard. But it seems Lady Jana Zuttermein said she wanted to get a seat next to you, to be near a hero. Seems you've got quite a fan in her. Everyone else is someone you don't know, dignitaries, nobles. It's actually quite a small gathering, only maybe 10, 20 people. The only other person who stands out to all three of you is someone, again, you've only seen very briefly. Phyrus Gorman, the High Patriarch of the Wizards. Big, older man, great big beard, looking around, little miffed, it seems. It's very unusual he's here, but then again, Lady Zuttermein explains to you, well, yes, you said yourselves you wanted more security, so he insisted on being here. Although, as you see, as you're looking at this, Kruger, she whispers, the good news is, he says he hasn't sensed anything too unusual. Just some disturbance, a warp storm, but he says there's nothing to worry about.
Well, it's good that we have someone looking out for us then in ways that we cannot. Let's hope it's just what he said then.
And with that, a procession begins to enter. Crown Prince Wolfgang, flanked by 9 members of the Reichsguard, begin walking him in, halberds raised. You see, Heinrich, yourself, that there is 2 other entrances to this room, one to the left, one to the right, and there are some guards there as well, but they're smaller entrances. The main one is the one you came through. How are you feeling? Small room, reasonably well guarded. You feel confident that if someone was trying to come in, you've got some good angles of where they could try, and you'd have some reinforcements.
If they come through a door, I've seen creatures with wings and things that burrow up from the ground. I'm significantly less worried about a man with a crossbow than I was at the beginning of this adventure.
That's certainly true. The skyline is high above you, but it's quite high up. And the ground, well, they'd have to drill through the palace itself, but it is possible. But at least there are lots of armed individuals here. There's even a wizard. And there's the Grand Theodulus himself. You can see his stately robes and his ornaments. Well, those are holy relics.
Well, let us hope that whatever magics they are capable of wielding will be enough to see us through the day. But until the day is seen through, I'm going to be nervous.
Indeed. Wolfgang begins to approach the altar, surrounded by the Reichsguard, and it seems as if it's all going to get underway very soon. It's at this point that Lady Anna Zutermine just mutters a little to you. It's been quite the journey, hasn't it, Herr Kruger? You 3 really have been quite wonderful. I mean, it's no wonder they call you heroes, is it? The story on paper, well, you and I know it almost seems a bit unbelievable, doesn't it?
Yes. It does. But here we are.
You 3, coming from nowhere, and then stopping the Purple Hand at every front, and... I mean, I'm willing to admit you made us all look a bit foolish. Here we are, hunting these cults for hundreds of years, and you 3 just swept aside. You caused mass panic. You never did find out why, though, did you?
No. Do you know why?
Well, my guess would be as good as yours. Does it matter? After all, in the end, they were insignificant, weren't they? You crushed them like bugs. Isn't that safe to say? You didn't need to know why.
Not necessarily, right? If the people are kept safe, then that is the most important thing. But if we really want to stop them long term, learning why, well, it could actually become quite useful. But how do we do that now?
You think that's a worthwhile pursuit? I kind of got the feeling you thought you were done with them. After all, they're just a nuisance to you, aren't they? Or have you changed your mind?
Well, we need to know. We need to know these things so that they don't come back later. I truly hope that we can usher in an era of peace now. But for that to happen, our enemies need to be vanquished once and for all, and we need to solve these problems at the root.
It's tricky, though, to know where to look. But you 3 always have such good insight. You tell me, who is the leak in the Black Chamber? Any clues? Is it Lippmund? Maybe the Grey Guardian? Maybe someone we don't know? I'm struggling to think myself. What do you think? What's your hunch? You 3 always have the best hunches.
Well, do I have a hunch? Is there someone that has stood out?
Why don't you roll an intuition check?
That's a 48 under 59.
It really is hard to tell. There is what Lady Emanuel Nacht said. She was suspicious of the head, Lippmund, Holzkrug. You've seen that gentleman before. Apparently, especially when it came to the matters in the Uberstreich area, he was very keen, it seems, to have that happen. And as you've been learning, well, the Purple Hand have had their hands in many things. Could he be a good spot? Again, though, he's the head. It's a little bit scandalous to say it's him.
Yes. And without any proof, I really shouldn't be going around spreading rumors like that. No, I do not know. I need to have some evidence to base any kind of accusation on, I feel.
Has that stopped you before? Everything's always fated you. You never did find that strange, did you? That everything just fell into your laps. I mean, I guess it's the will of Sigmar, right?
I guess so. That's what I've been told, and I suppose it makes sense. Difficult to believe, somehow, but it is what it is.
But you must tell me your secret. Has it really all just been hunches? How did you just discover so many things where so many others have failed?
I can't say. It must be Sigmar, as you say. Divine intervention.
And she gives you a warm smile and pats you on the shoulder, saying, "Yes, I suppose it must be. I suppose it was fated, you could say."
Yes. That is my fate, it seems. Our fate.
Heinrich Schilf, would you like to make a perception check? Give yourself a +10. You're standing right at the... Well, you're sitting, because you're sitting right at the front.
I will, but it will require a point of fortune because an 86 does not do the job. A 41 should do better. Under 54, 1 level of success.
That is a level of success. The ceremony has begun. You see, the Emperor himself, the former Emperor, has said something to his nephew, and now all the guards are surrounding the Grand Theogenist and Wolfgang as they say some things to each other, and very soon the Warhammer, you can see just behind them on this table, it seems, will be, well, carried out, because apparently the test to see whether he's actually worthy or not has to wait, but the Reichsguard are there to do that. Reichsguard dressed in their fine gold and red armours, and... that's interesting, you just noticed the one nearest to you, just under his shoulder guard. Looks like there's a hint of purple to the uniform as well. Might be a special thing, you didn't think purple was part of the colours.
Do I actually think that, or am I just being paranoid?
You tell me. You see a small hint of purple. Part of the uniform, it seems. Roll an intuition check.
Alright, that is a 54, which is not good enough, so I guess that's my second point of fortune. You said intuition, right? Yes, that's not good enough. Let's try again. No, 78, and at this point I don't want to spend any more of my fortune, so I have no idea, but I know who might know, and I will elbow them thus. Sigfrida, who is sitting right next to me.
You give Sigfrida a bit of an elbow as you just see this odd little detail. But Sigfrida, you're not really paying attention to Heinrich elbowing you, because seconds before this, someone else seated next to you, some diplomat, they just sort of leaned over, and they just said in your ear, "Very impressive ceremony, isn't it, my lady?"
I jump and then turn. Who's speaking to me?
You turn to see some human man, youngish, blue eyes, never seen him before. And as you turn and look at him, and Heinrich gives you an elbow at this point, but you're not really paying attention because the man simply says, "Don't worry. You nearly had it, but not quite." 2 explosions suddenly then ring from the left and right of this room, sending everyone for a moment into a few seconds of panic. Then there is a sound of steel being drawn. Heinrich, you're looking at Sigfrida, there's explosions, and then you just turn to see that the great Grand Theogenist Yuri is sort of looking in confusion, first at the explosions, the left and right, which seem to have... There's lots of smoke now and debris coming from the other 2 exits to the room. And then looking at confusion at the spear that has just been lodged into his chest by one of the Reichsguard. Next second later, the Crown Prince yells out something before 3 spears are driven through him by other members of the Reichsguard. And then everything stops. Everything stops. You all have a moment of déjà vu. This feels very familiar. You've experienced this before. Time has stopped, but it hasn't. Of course it hasn't, not really. You can all think, you can all speak. But Heinrich, you and Siegfried have the biggest view of this. In front of you is a nightmarish silhouette of time stopped. The Crown Prince has been stabbed by 4 spears, 3 spears, 5, it's hard to even tell where one spear ends, the other begins, by all the Reichsguard. Every single one of them standing around them has attacked the Crown Prince and the Grand Theogenist. You can see, frozen in time, some of the guards near the Emperor himself have suddenly they're frozen, but they've begun standing in front of the Emperor, getting ready to draw their weapons. You notice on the left and right that several of the guards there are on the ground, having fallen to these explosions. You see people in their seats standing, panicking. You see, Kruger, from your point of view, all this, but then there's something missing, and you look and you notice that Lady Jana Zuttermine, she's frozen, but she's frozen in quickly exiting. She's vaulted over where she was sitting, and she's already making her way to the great doors, which you notice that the guards are standing in front of to stop passage. And all this is frozen. And once again, you find that the 3 of you somehow, despite being frozen, can speak. In fact, you can actually move. And as you start moving, you step out of your own bodies. It is so surreal, so strange, but you actually are able to step out of your own frozen bodies and move around this scene. But at the same time you're not moving, you can see your actual selves very still. What do the 3 of you do?
Honestly, I'm at a bit of a loss.
As you're staring there a bit dumbstruck, Heinrich, you notice something else. Again, as you stand, because you can now go and look, and you see something that doesn't make any sense. Because yes, okay, it doesn't make any sense. The Reichsguard are attacking their sworn protectors. This is madness. But there's something odd going on, because you suddenly look down on the floor and you notice there's a purple glow. But it's coming from... Is it coming from underneath the stones? Yes, it is. And you also then notice that on the... Well, you and Siegfried were seated on the right side of this grand area, but you notice on the left... 9 individuals have stood up. They're all a bunch of elderly men and women. You didn't really notice them when they were coming in. You just assumed they were dignitaries, but they're all standing, and they're not looking panicked. They're just looking directly upwards. And it looks like they're in the middle of chanting something, as something seems to be happening to them. And then you notice that the eyes of the prince himself are starting to glow a rich purple. Roll or chaos.
No, I have no idea what that is. 97?
97. A ritual. An action. This must be it's a ritual. It's a chaos. But how can it be happening here? How could it be happening in front of the Grand Theogenist? How can it... You have no idea. This should be impossible. Yes, they could have come in from the sides. Yes, demons could have come in from the ceiling. But this is almost like the room was prepared. And that's impossible, isn't it? What do you say? Again, you can speak, Heinrich, and you see Siegfried and your Kruger. They are just gathering... Well, you're all maybe gathering together, you tell me.
There's only one of us who has any idea what culty tomfoolery looks like. If we can communicate with each other, I presume Siegfried sees this and then the look on my face.
Yes, you can see this as well, Siegfried. And you don't need to make a roll. Chaos magic. Prepared. Readied. Blood. Sacrifice happening right before your eyes. It's all perfect. Totally perfect.
Is there any possibility of intervening? Or is this all happening before our eyes at a pace that we cannot reach it?
If this strange effect ends, maybe. But you'll need to... spring to action immediately, and again, the effect, it's not ending. What about you, Kruger? You see your friends, you join them, you don't know anything about chaos, but you know simply that this is not good, this is awful. One thing's for sure, 3 of you, even you, Siegfried, to save the Crown Prince now, can you? He's been stabbed through his spears 4 times.
Well, we have to help him. We have to do whatever we can. We can't let it stand. So, I will act. I'll draw my weapon.
Then you go and you draw your weapon and you try and intervene.
Yes.
Yes, you run forward and you can't. You try and you just can't. You every time you approach that scene, you just suddenly find you've stepped back. You can't. You know that you're actually seated down in a chair still. That's what actually is happening. And then you hear a slow clap, clap, and an individual comes forward from the side. Dressed, as always, in a silly little blue tunic with an awful haircut.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this final part of the series, we are tackling Empire in Ruins. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Wordclock, Metatron Omega, Ager Sonus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Dick Thomson, Lily, Maciej, Black Templar, Dennis Sadecki, and Leonhardt for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay bonus campaign, Rough Nights and Hard Days, as well as bonus campaigns for Warhammer 40k Imperium Maledictum, Cult of Init Lost, and Call of Cthulhu there. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that Skaven are definitely not real, and even if they were, the Emperor has already dealt with that threat long ago.